a little different. The rules with microphones are fairly simple. If you want to have Will show you how to start the recording in the big production room real quick, that would be grand. Thank you. Okay. And you guys, you can look at us or you don't have to. That's fine. You'll hear it. You'll be fine. I might need you to be a little loud though this time, since they can't. Okay. Just make sure you almost make out with the microphone. It's goofy, I know, but it's what I got. So if you would all like to draw without looking in, who's going first? And second and third on the intro. So,
I assume that's a 1.
That's a 1. That's 2, and that's 3. So we're going to go Mike, Robert, and Thomas on the intro. Okay. So we know you don't get to go first on the first question, but so we need to see who's going first and second out of Robert and Thomas. So if you want to pick out the first question there.
That's a lot of drawing.
I got both.
Oh, you got both. Oh, well, oh, wait.
You didn't bring the Pompeo mobile. I thought you would show up.
You know, didn't make the trip down tonight.
Okay. So we got a hot tub in it.
What mobile is this? What kind of
It does not.
So it's going to go
Energy conservation.
Right.
And then on the question, it's going to go Robert, Thomas, and Mike.
All right. You got to remember that, not me.
Okay. Okay. You got it. Now we got the news going.
Here, I'm going to show that I'm actually here.
The coon real quick.
The only time that I get fame. Yeah. Or broadside.
Okay.
Thomas Jefferson. Mike Pompeo.
Not often that you have Thomas Jefferson in the room.
Okay, so we're going to go after Coon Mechanical, and we'll get started. Again, gentlemen, thank you for your time. Please give me patience, because this is the first time I've had to do this other than a shadowing. And this is Shane. He'll do that. What? It's already streaming. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We want to close the store?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Lock us in.
Yeah, it will get hot.
This is the most annoying commercial of all time.
Oh, I know. I'm right there with you, but they love it.
I guess I shouldn't say that. Are we live yet?
No, I know.
Irritate the hell out of anybody yet.
Yeah, good. Excuse me, sorry.
What's the order on the outro?
We haven't. Oh, okay, so we did the first question. I might have to throw another one in there. Then, I might have to do. Okay, so
who hasn't got? You're going first on the.
He's going first on the
intro. You're going first on the questions. You're going first on the outro. Perfect.
Okay.
There you go.
Coon Mechanical shares that record with stellar service for you and your family whenever trouble arises.
Okay, guys, here we go. Hail or high water. Good evening. I'm Blake Carter, and I'm in a room surrounded. Oh, just got to turn everybody down though first. That's always fun. Okay. And that's why I do music, because that way the listeners can enjoy music as I get to have a lot of fun with microphones. Good evening. Welcome to the general debate here with KSOK and newscow.net. A big thanks. This is brought to us by Coon Mechanical. Check them out at coonmechanical.com. If it has anything to do with heating, cooling, water, or waste, Coon Mechanical can do it. Give them a call today at 441-9339. What we're doing is I'm here with Shane Farley, editor, and Chief of newscow.net. How you doing, sir?
Are you doing okay? You getting the buttons figured out?
I'm getting the buttons figured out over there. Can you believe that? That's incredible. We're going to start off our political debate here in just a second. Just so everyone knows, we have quite a bit of different races we're doing today. We have the United States House of Representatives District 4. We have the Kansas State Senate District 14, 32, and 12. And the Kansas House of Representatives 79 and 80 that we'll be going over today, having all the opponents in here. And our first race that we're going over right now is the United States House of Representatives. We have Robert Tillman, Mike Pompeo, and Thomas Jefferson all in the room with us. A record breaking in the KSOK studio to have 5 men on the microphone at once, but we have done it. And we have drawn previously, so we know the rules, we've drawn previously who will start the intros, and then who will start the questions, and who will end the outros out of our 3 gentlemen. Each person will get 2 minutes for their intros and their questions, and a 1-minute rebuttal and a 2-minute outro. We'll get started with Mike Pompeo with his intro. I have 2 minutes. I will set the clock right now, and sir, please know I will let you know when we hit 30 seconds, so you kind of have that on there for you too.
Great, thank you, and thanks for hosting this. Thanks to the sponsor of the show. Thanks for Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Tillman, for being with me here this evening. I've been your congressman for 21 months now. Before that, I ran a small business, manufacturing company making goods for the industrial services industry and the whole batch. I decided to run for Congress a little over 2.5 years ago now because I watched a government that had grown far too big and was spending way too much of your money. And unfortunately, we've only made scant progress in slowing President Obama down. He's accrued $5 trillion of debt in just 3.5 years in his time in office, and we need to continue to put that fiscal house in order. If we don't, our kids and our grandkids will live in America that's very, very different from today. You all know this. Those of you out there listening to this radio show tonight know that the last 4 years have not been successful. I've got way too many folks out of work here in South Central Kansas. I've been back in Washington, D.C. working, fighting for you to try and get the government out of the way, to get rid of the sets of regulations like the farm dust rules, like the current rules about what kids can eat in schools and how many calories they can consume. Enormous regulatory burdens put on us here in Kansas by folks who simply don't understand our way of life. I'm asking for your vote on November 6th so that I can go back to Washington, hopefully alongside then President Romney, and really begin to make a difference so that the private sector, those of you who are out there as entrepreneurs, hardworking people all across South Central Kansas, whether you're in the aviation industry or the oil and gas industry or in agriculture, you can do the things you want to do, raise your family the way you want to, and make sure that your kids and our grandkids all have the life that we want them to have. Thank you for letting me be here this evening.
Thank you, and that's our first one. And give me just a second, because the automatic alarm system on our computer that lets us know on the minutes likes to wait a little bit, but that gives me a time to talk to everyone else real quick, and we'll get that started. I'm going to turn one down and turn one up. That's always fun. Okay, and second, I believe when you guys draw is Robert. Yes, correct. Okay, Robert Tillman, if you'd please give us your introduction, please. And your time starts now.
I'm Robert Tillman, and I thank you very much for KSOK for having this debate. I'm a Democrat, and a proud Democrat, and I'm running against current Congressman Republican Mike Pompeo and Libertarian Thomas Jefferson. It seems like the Republican Party forgets they have the amnesia when it comes to how did we get into this crisis. When the Clinton administration left office, they left a surplus. When President Bush came in there, he came in with his genius to give away the money. He gave away, through tax breaks, a lot of our money. And then they started 2 wars, and then they didn't fund those 2 wars. They started Medicaid, Medicare, and they didn't fund that either. And all of a sudden, they blame the Democrats for increasing the deficit. What the Republicans believe is getting government out of the way. Can you imagine having a government official telling you that he wants to get government out of the way. That sounds like a person who has something to hide. I've been in law enforcement all 24 years of my life, and if a criminal happened to tell me that he thinks that the law enforcement should just get out of the way, can you imagine a criminal saying that? It's the same thought I have when I hear a government official say, government should get out of the way. This is how we got into this crisis. Government got out of the way. Then they
30 seconds.
deregulated the industries, and then the banks went whoopee, and the mortgage company went whoopee, and all the CSOs and the leaders made millions of dollars and put the rest of us into a recession. Then we had to bail them out. If we had not bailed them out under President Obama's leadership, we would be in a physical crisis right now. But now we began to make a recovery. And I want to support President Barack Obama as we continue with this recovery. And I want to go to Washington, D.C. to make it happen. I am Robert Tillman. I'm running for Congress. Thank you very much.
Very good, sir. That gives us our second candidate. And now we will move to our third candidate running for United States House of Representatives District 4. That is Thomas Jefferson out of Wichita, Kansas. All three gentlemen are out of Wichita, Kansas, just in case you're wondering. I know that had been a question that I got called on before, so just so everyone knows. Okay, so Robert, Thomas, yeah, I messed that up. Okay, Thomas, if you give us your intro, your time starts now.
Yes, my name is Thomas Jefferson, and I am running for the United States House of Representatives, 4th District in the state of Kansas. And I would like to point out that Robert Tillman really seems to have the voice for radio, and I kind of have the face for it. So, that is that. Okay, anyway, I am running on the Libertarian ticket, and as we heard, Mr. Pompeo had mentioned that there were problems in Congress, specifically with the Democratic Party. And Mr. Tillman had mentioned problems with the Republican Party, and I would like to say I agree with both of these gentlemen. I think that there are problems with both parties, and I think it's the political infighting between the two major parties, the Republican and the Democratic Party, that has led to the gridlock that has kept our 112th Congress from getting anything done. It really has been a do-nothing Congress. There have been some things that have transpired, but one thing was voting 33 times to repeal Obamacare. I think after number 28, 27, 29, 30, it's probably time to call it quits on the ball. And I really would like to see something to replace it rather than just to repeal what we have. Come up with something better, bring that to the floor and vote on it. As the Libertarian candidate, the big thing that we have an interest in is the balanced budget. We absolutely need to have a balanced budget. We did it 6 years ago. Since we didn't get it, we need to have it in the next session. And that's something that the leadership of Gary Johnson, which is our presidential
30 seconds.
That is something that I would bring to the lower house. I myself was born and raised in Abilene, Kansas, the home of Dwight David Eisenhower. Moved to Wichita a few years ago, and I've been living in the area working in information technology. I've been a small business owner since 1994, and I did serve in the United States Navy. My name is Thomas Jefferson. I am the third-party Libertarian candidate on your ticket for Congress.
And thank you. Now we're going to turn over to our moderator, which is Shane Farley from newscow.net, editor-in-chief, Master Chief, I think is what we went with last time we did election coverage.
I think I get an upgrade every time. I get a promotion every time I show up here, so that's cool.
Well, see, I'm happy to please on that one. Okay, he's going to ask the first question. The first question will be answered first by Robert Tillman, and then it will be answered by Thomas Jefferson, and then Mike Pompeo. For those that can't see, that goes straight in the line of microphones, so I don't know how that drawing worked, but I am very thankful. So, Shane, if you would like to go with the first question, please.
Gentlemen, being specific, tell us what you would say to a voter who asks you how you differ from your opponents in this race.
Okay, and give me just a second to get you ready to go. Robert, your time begins now.
I am Robert Tillman for Congress answering this question for the radio viewers out there. And I would say that I am completely a 360-degree different from Mike Pompeo, and probably about 160 degrees different from Thomas Jefferson. If Congressman Mike Pompeo and I agree upon anything, for example, creating jobs, we differ on how to do it. I believe that we are doing a good job in Washington, D.C. as Democrats. Right now, the Democrats control the presidency, and the Democrats control the United States House of the Senate, but the Republicans control the United States House of the Representatives, and that's where the problem lies. Republicans have set on everything that the Democrats have tried to do. We have a Democratic job bill out there, and we want to get out and create jobs for Americans. And the Republican Party in the House of Representatives will not let it come out of committee. This is something they do because they do not want President Obama to get any credit for doing anything, because he would have to sign any bill that's passed by Congress, and this is why we have a stalemate in Washington, D.C. We have people going there to represent you as your representative for Congress and for whatever, and they will not do their job. They have signed all kind of contracts that they won't raise taxes. They have signed all kind of agreements that they're not going to vote for anything the Democrats propose, and that's why we have a gridlock in Washington, D.C.
30 seconds.
I suggest that you vote these people out because they have pledged not to do their constitutional job. I am Robert Tillman, and I will do a job for you. I'm running for Congress. Thank you, and vote for me.
Okay, now we're going to move to Thomas for his 2-second response. Remember, this is not a rebuttal of what was just said quite yet. This is just your 2-minute response on this one, Thomas. Your time starts now.
The way that I differ primarily is there's no upper echelon. I don't have a John Boehner, and I don't have a Harry Reid to answer to when I get to Washington. And both Mr. Tillman and Mr. Pompeo do have that. They have establishment, and they have to take into consideration the establishment as well as the constituents. As a Libertarian candidate, I only have to concern myself with the constituents. On a direct personal basis, Mr. Tillman would has suggested through, we've been to like 15 candidate forums together, Mr. Tillman and I, but he would increase social program spending, which is not necessarily a bad thing, and it's a needed thing, but even in lieu of growing the debt. And I think we're not at the point where we need to grow the debt. So there are some hard choices that may have to be made in spending on social programs, things that I would be more apt to cut, let's say make a 4% cut where we need it versus expanding because we don't need to grow that debt. With Mr. Pompeo specifically, he supported the National Defense Authorization Act this year, this is not an unusual thing. It's something that Congress has to do each year anyway. But there was language in there that expanded President Obama's authority to imprison or detain people without needing a writ or a warrant, which is language that hadn't been there before. And as a Libertarian, that's something to jump up and down on your desk and beat your shoe.
30 seconds.
On the counter and scream. This is one of the reasons why the real original Thomas Jefferson said we needed a Declaration of Independence from King George because they had power like that. And this isn't something that we should hand to the President of the United States. Also, I don't think we should ever raise the debt ceiling again. There are times we may have to, but we absolutely need a balanced budget amendment together with that. I don't think that Mr. Pompeo and I disagree on that so much, but again, he has to answer to.
Time is up, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, I'm going to give you just a second, and remember, this is just for the 2 seconds on this one. It is not a.
Just 2 minutes.
Or just 2 minutes. Yeah, I say 2 seconds, and that's extremely wrong. But just 2 minutes for Mike. So Mike, if you give me just a second, I got your mic all botted up, and your time begins now.
Great, thank you, and I appreciate the question to try and help your listeners distinguish between the candidates. Just to respond to what Mr. Jefferson said ago, I voted for a balanced budget amendment. And so not only do I believe we need to have one, I voted for one, as did nearly every single member of the Republican Party voted to balance the budget. It's something that I care deeply about, and we certainly need to do. But the biggest difference between me and other two folks that are running is that I believe in you, and they both believe in bigger government. We just heard them both talk about how we need bigger social programs. What we need is, for example, in worker training, we don't need 100+ different programs. In education and education grants, we don't need 80+ different federal programs. Our federal government is just simply moved beyond any place that our founders originally intended to be. It's engaged in activities that the Constitution neither permits nor wanted it to be involved with, and it's just enormous. We also differ in this. I don't think when the economy is as weak as it is today, we ought to raise taxes on anyone. No one should suffer through a tax increase when we've got unemployment of 23 million Americans all across the country. We have 46 million people, more than ever in the history of the United States, on food stamps. This is not a time to take more money to Washington, D.C. and leave less money in your pockets. You know, we also disagree in terms of regulations. I've watched the Environmental Protection Agency attack businesses here in south central Kansas. I've watched them come after farmers. I've watched them come after livestock producers. People are out there who are keeping our water clean, keeping our air safe, and yet here comes the Environmental Protection Agency. If we'll roll back the regulatory state to a reasonable place, reduce the tax burden on everyone, and reduce spending, we can get America back to the place where, once again, we will be the job creation engine for the entire world.
And thank you, Mike. Okay, Shane and I are going to start the 1-minute rebuttal. We're going to go in the same order that we did the 2-minute responses. So, Robert, if you give me just a second, I will set the clock, set your mic, and your 1-minute rebuttal will begin. So, okay, Robert, your time begins now.
Just so that you know who's speaking, I'm Robert Tillman. I'm running for Congress. And it's amazing that we have a government that's doing what it should do, and then we have government officials who accuse it of not doing what it should do. And they represent us. They talk about balancing the budget. That's a great sounding theme. But who are they going to balance the budget on? Right now they're trying to get us out of this recession on the backs of the poor. And if they're going to balance a budget for the United States Congress, it's going to be on the back of the poor. So if you're a millionaire, and the type of millionaire that support Congressman Mike Pompeo's campaign, then you're going to be in good shape. But if you like me and you like you're going to need more help. And the government is trying to get us out of this crisis. We appreciate it if you give us a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. That, of course, was Robert Tillman. And now we're going to move to Thomas Jefferson for his 1-minute rebuttal. Thomas, are you ready? Okay. Your 1 minute starts now.
Yeah, Mr. Pompeo, I didn't get to complete my 2 minutes. No, I agreed with you on the balanced budget amendment, but it was then and also raising the debt ceiling, and that was in. But I understand that that's something that you have to do sometimes in accordance with party lines. But that is what I see as the problem: is that it's a Republican versus Democrat, and one has to blame the other. But who's losing are the constituents in the district and the United States. I'm not for a bigger government, but I'm for a better use of government resources and government funds. The reason is when Congress passes a bill into law and enacts legislation, they
30 seconds.
Yeah, they don't reach into their own pockets to do this. They reach into our pockets. They reach into the taxpayers. And I feel that recently our Congress has not been good stewards of that money that they take out of our pockets, and they've generated this debt. And I understand it has to do with all parties. It's not just necessarily a Republican or Democrat thing. There's things you can and can't do. But I'm saying the one thing you can do and have it is work together. And I'm Thomas Jefferson, Libertarian candidate, and I'd like your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Now we'll move to Mike for his 1-minute rebuttal. Mike Pompeo, if you can give me just a second to hot up your mic. Get the timer ready, and your time begins now.
Great, thank you. This is Mike Pompeo. Just 2 thoughts. The Republicans in the House of Representatives have worked very closely with Democrats for the 2 years that I was there on lots of things. We did a pipeline safety bill. We've passed 30 bills alone out of the committee that I sit on that have become law. There's lots of places we've worked together. But what I'll never work together on is when we're growing the scope and size of the federal government. I've watched the Democrat Party in the House of Representatives and this president grow the debt to where we now have more debt in just these 3.5 years than we had in the first 200 years of our nation's existence. This is not the direction that our country needs. We'll end up like Greece. We'll end up like Spain with 20-25% unemployment. That is deeply, deeply un-American. And if you're a middle-class person, or you're a person out there working hard, trying to make a go of it and take care of your own family, the last thing you need is a bigger federal government taking more money out of your pocket. taking it to Washington, D.C. and redistributing it. It's a failed set of policies, and we need to move away from it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to move on to our second and final question of this race. Shane from newscow.net. I like being able to give people titles all the time. Alrighty. Shane, if you would go ahead with your second question, please.
Okay, let's talk about Obamacare. Share your thoughts on the Federal Health Care Reform Act and discuss what your stance is on whether implementation should move forward.